Well, I I expected that select committee to be a bit explosive, but I didn't expect it to be this explosive. To give you a quick rundown, if you haven't been following this, the current guy in charge of the post office has now come out and accused the government of telling him to go slow over the post office compensation for over the Horizon scandal. Then what happened was Kimi Badnock came out on Twitter like with like a throwing a thunderbolt from on high on top of Mount Olympus, saying, "How dare you do that? I am not lying. You're the one who is lying." He then fired back and said, "Actually, no, I've got the evidence to prove that Badnock's lying." Badnock then, I think, said, "Prove it." So he said, "Okay, I'll go to the select committee and do it." And he is now put down under oath. I want to stress this. He has said this under oath that Badnock is lying. And what is even more strange is that, remember, Badnock is meant to be the person who follows on after Rishi. For many conservatives, she is the next leader that they would like. I've said before, they would absolutely regret that. That would be absolutely terrible for them to do because, if you think that they're already scraping the bottom of the barrel, Badnock is well beyond the bottom of the barrel. They have broken through the barrel since then. But there are a number of Tory MPs trying to protect Badnock, trying to insulate her, saying that they've got her back. And I would not be surprised if these people, shall we say, survive the next general election, and Badnock does become the next Tory leader. Would not surprise me to see these people in the shadow cabinet. So remember some of these names who are protecting Kimi Badnock from this scrutiny of this now former post office chair. So we're going to have a look into this because honestly, it was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane from start to finish. And who's telling the truth here? Well, this like I say, this is a committee meeting. Ultimately, now I think Badnock is going to get called before this committee as well. Would be interesting if she testifies under oath or not, because remember, this guy said, "I am that confident. I am that confident. I will testify under oath," and he did before the committee. Will Badnock do the same? Who knows? But when she does, sparks are going to fly because she does not do well under pressure. She does not do well under scrutiny. And oh boy, that might very well, this whole thing might blow her chances of ever becoming Tory leader. So we'll see how this unfolds. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. But before we do get to this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can all buy me coffee. YouTube thank you button. And of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. And you can always click on the like and share button as well. And if you are new to the channel, click the subscribe button. So let's crack on with this. So this comes from The Guardian. With Tory MPs have Badnock's back as they slog it out with the former post office chair. So this was a truly explosive select committee. There are clips flying around of this online that you can watch. Politics Joe, very good, has a bit of a highlight of those events. But yeah, we'll see what happens when Badnock comes before this committee because, oh boy, it's going to be interesting. So, who do you trust? Kimi Badnock, the business secretary, whom she and many other Tory MPs now believe will be the leader of the next Tory party, a woman whose loyalty extends primarily to herself, as even her family takes contemporaneously notes of any meeting just in case they find themselves in that and that the memoirs differ. The corridors of Westminster are now littered with enemies and allies who she has now stabbed in the back. And that's very true. This is why Badnock, if she goes for Tory leader, we've said this before, it is going to be absolutely brutal. Because if you think that there are, there's a lot of, shall we say, skeletons in the closet lying around Westminster at the moment from many Tory MPs, and Badnock is meant to be one of them that's got the most in there. So we'll see what happens. Or do you believe Henry Stratton? It continues, the former chair of the post office, who was sacked by Kemi in January. A man who has made a career out of being made chief executive or vice chair of many companies about which he knows comparatively little, or of whom the worst that can be said, like many men of his acquaintance, that he is being constantly promoted above his abilities. Being a thoroughly good chap counts for far more than competence in Stratton's world. So, those are your two choices. Do you believe Kemi Badnock, or do you believe Henry Stratton? I'm not gonna lie, when you look at sort of, their character statements, it's all a bit up in the air. So it continues, not the greatest choices to have to make, though on balance, most people would instinctively side with Henry, primarily because those who know Kemi tend to dislike her even more than those who don't know her. She manages to make Michael Gove look like someone you can rely on. I'm going to have to start using that. Because that is comparatively true. That does very, very, very much make a case of that. That's very true. So, on Tuesday, the Business Select Committee was trying to see if it could get any nearer the truth. 10 days previously, Stratton had given an interview to the Sunday Times in which he said the government had lent on him to go slow in the making the financial compensation to post office operatives. Kemi had then come out all guns blazing. She had never said anything like this to Henry and was a fantasist. Worse than that, he was a total scumbag. Someone who had never been let anywhere near the post office to begin with, a disgrace to himself and the country. Stratton didn't take this lying down. From the dregs of his email inbox, he dragged out a message from Sarah Mumby, a senior civil servant in Kemi's department, suggesting he go slow on things that were going to cost the government. Cue a full-on fight. Kemi rubbishing Stratton that he was a useless old dodderer who had clearly misremembered, aka lied about a meeting, and Henry, giving as good as he got, far from misremembering, it was all as clear as day. The conversation had been done on a nod and a wink basis, with the subjective spelt out in capitals. So, honestly, I think the more information that this comes out, and depends how the chips fall on this is Badnock's career over. Like, over permanently. Because she cannot stay in her position. Sunak will have to sack her. So we'll have to get someone else in. Who he gets in, who knows. But then she will go back to the backbenchers, and she will probably stew on there for quite some time. She will be dispatched to the political wilderness, because what she's done, bear in mind that you've seen the massive outpouring for the post office people from after all the Alan Bates versus the post office drama that came out. If she becomes public enemy number one for these people, and people realize that actually she did do all this, oh, it's over. It's good night, Irene. Like, her political career is over. No conservative leadership for her. Anyway, Liam Bryan, the select committee chair, tried to get to the bottom of the matter. Maybe getting Stratton to take the unusual step of swearing that the oath before giving evidence would help jog his memory. Maybe he would realize that Kemi's version of events had been right all along. Far from it. If anything, Henry chose to double down. He knew exactly what had been meant, because he had been so surprised that he had made notes of the conversation as soon as he'd gotten back to his desk. By contrast, Mumby had only got around to muting her detail more than a year later, after the shit had hit the fan. So, which would you trust? Asked the affable Stratton, a note made at the time, or one made a year later. And I think, again, it's the note made at the time has more evidence on that one. But Henry went on. He hadn't paid any attention to the government directive. Rather, he had tried to make sure that the post office operatives got what was due to them. Kimmy's department had done almost nothing until the ITV drama Mr. Bates versus the Post Office was shown later this year. It seemed like we were arguing about the difference between static and glacial, but at a corporate level, maybe these differences are significant. Next to ask the questions was Jonathan Gillis. He wasn't going to allow the good name of the woman who might be his next party leader in absentia, in any case, as it is likely he will lose his seat at the next election, to be trounced by this posh nomarch. So, was it the case that Stratton was lashing out? That he had been a subject of an 80-page disciplinary report that had formed the basis of his sacking? Gillis had clearly come well briefed by Kimmy. That is precisely what she had leaked to all media outlets herself. Not at all, said Mr. Stratton, all confused charm. What do you mean? Snapped Gillis. This wasn't going to the script. He had he had been there to be the showboat. It was like this. Stratton, there had been one paragraph about disciplinary action for something that he had said that was politically incorrect. The other 97 were 3/4 pages that were concerned with disciplinary action being taken about Nick Reed, the current chief executive of the post office. Now, a look of panic began to cross Gillis's face as he realized he had been stitched up by Kimmy. So imagine this. You are going to go to bat for someone who is going to be the future leader of your party, only to get royally stitched up by Kimmy Badenoch. You literally could not make this up. That she had been less than truthful with him and others. Who would have guessed? So unlike her. Gillis was not the first to regret sticking up for the business secretary, nor would he be the last. Gillis began to hastily backtrack by saying, well, I see. A fellow Tory, Anthony Higginbottom, had fewer qualms. He would be loyal to Kimmy to the day he died. Time and again, he tried to persuade Stratton to change his account. On every occasion, Henry would have none of this. It wasn't be long before we entered the world of the positively surreal. And honestly, if you watch that exchange, him trying to say, oh, but things happen, and Henry's there sat going, no, I remember what happened. This is what happened. These are my notes. It's a bizarre exchange. It is truly, I will agree with that. It is one of the most surreal exchanges I have seen for quite a while. Going even back to, the Boris Johnson Select Committee hearing. Truly, truly surreal. So, the thing was, said Henry, Nick hadn't been happy at the post office. He didn't reckon he was paid nearly enough. Talk about tin-eared. Some postmasters earn over 20k a year. Others had been bankrupt and wrongfully convicted. And all Reed was bothered about was his own bank balance. It's all at the heart in the corporate world. Statham seemed oblivious to this. It was only natural that Nick wanted more dosh. So he'd seen to what he could do about it then with Grant Shapps, because people like Henry always try to do their best for people like Nick. It's how the world works. Like Oxbridge in the city. Nick had been terribly, terribly upset, Henry said, so much so that HR had threatened to resign. Now we're even through the looking glass, because only an hour earlier, Reed had given evidence under oath to the committee saying that he had never thought about quitting. It took about 64 board meetings, he complained. It had all been too tiring for him and the board. He told the committee he had been paid for media training before the morning session. he should ask for his money back. No wonder Alan Bates had early suggested the post office was in such a wreck it should be handed over to Amazon to run. Yeah, I will tell you this now. The more this affair pans out, the more and worse Kimmy Badnock looks. Because someone in this instance is lying. Someone in this instance is lying. And the very fun fact that she stitched up Jonathan Gillis from this select committee hearing is hilarious. Because Badnock is likely to survive. Her seat is a somewhat Tory safe seat, although, as we've said before, after recent by-elections, are any of the Tory safe seats truly a safe seat? Who knows? We'll find out at the next general election. But if she survives, if she goes to be leader, well, now she's got all these enemies, all these adversaries that are going to be looking out for her and don't want her to be leader. And if this saga ends up taking her down, it'll be no thank you, Kimmy. Off to the political wilderness you go. Even in opposition, she will be kept at arm's length for some time. Will she have to resign? Possibly so, but the more this seems to unwind, the shall we say, the thinner her future political career becomes. So we'll see what happens on this. But oh boy, Kimmy Badnock, knowing how to, make friends and influence people. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think to this down below, because honestly, it is surreal. I suspect there will be more fun and games when Kimmy Badnock herself comes to before this committee, and oh boy, will the fireworks fly. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.